Hello. Let's be honest. If your wife is cheating, the worst thing you can do is confront her directly. She'll deny, cry, gaslight, and somehow make you feel guilty. So, I decided to get creative. I turned her deception into entertainment, and by the end of the night, everyone at that table knew exactly who she really was, including her. I'm Ethan, 36, just your average guy who believed he had a stable marriage. My wife, Jessica, 34, was the kind of woman who could walk into a room and make everyone like her. I used to admire that. Now I know it was just practice for how well she could lie. We had been together for 10 years, married for 7, no kids, just a nice house, a dog, and what I thought was mutual love and respect. But over the past 6 months, something changed. Jessica had a new friend from work, Eric. I wasn't the jealous type, but even I had to raise an eyebrow when she started coming home late, constantly texting, and suddenly needing weekend work trips when she had never traveled for work before. I could have snooped. I could have checked her phone, followed her, gone full detective mode. But I didn't need to. My gut told me everything I needed to know. The real question was, how was I going to expose her? I didn't want a dramatic screaming match. I wanted something unforgettable. So, I planned a game night. Jessica loved hosting. We had a close group of friends and her brother, Ryan, would be in town. The timing was perfect. I suggested a fun, casual truth or dare night, but with a twist. I'd be controlling the questions and dares. Every single one carefully designed to back her into a corner she couldn't escape. I spent weeks crafting the perfect setup. I made sure everyone was drinking, laughing, completely unaware that this was anything other than harmless fun. Jessica was relaxed, probably thinking she had me wrapped around her finger, blissfully unaware that she was walking into a trap. By the time the game started, I could already see her unraveling. Every question pushed her closer to the edge. Every dare made her more uncomfortable. And then, the final round came. The moment I had been waiting for. I asked the one question that changed everything. And that's when the real show began. I had spent weeks preparing for this moment. Every detail, every question, every calculated pause was orchestrated to build tension, to let Jessica think she was safe before tightening the noose. The best part? She had absolutely no idea. That night, the house was full, our closest friends, her brother Ryan, and a few work colleagues. Jessica, always the perfect host, poured drinks, laughed, and played the charming wife. If she had any suspicions, she didn't show them. To her, this was just another casual gathering. To me, it was theater. We started with light-hearted rounds. Innocent questions, ridiculous dares. What's your biggest fear? What's the worst thing you've done while drunk? People laughed, cringed, shared embarrassing stories. The room was warm, buzzing with alcohol and comfort. Exactly what I needed. Then, I turned up the heat. I slipped in questions designed to make her uneasy. Have you ever lied to someone you love? Jessica smirked and took a sip of her drink, brushing it off as harmless fun. Others followed, giving lighthearted answers. But I saw it, the way her fingers tensed slightly around her glass, the flicker of hesitation before she laughed it off. Then came the dares. Text your boss something completely inappropriate. Reveal the last thing you searched for on your phone. Nothing too damaging, yet. Just enough to chip away at her confidence. And then, the moment I had been waiting for. I turned to Jessica with a casual smile. Your turn, I said. Truth or dare? She laughed, leaning into me slightly. Truth. I leaned forward, my voice smooth, almost amused. Have you ever cheated on your spouse? The entire room fell silent. Jessica froze. For the first time that night, the warmth drained from her expression. The laughter, the casual playfulness, gone. She stared at me, eyes wide, lips parted slightly like she was trying to form a response but couldn't find the words. Someone coughed awkwardly. A friend chuckled nervously. That's a brutal question, man, one of the guys muttered. But I didn't break eye contact. I didn't blink. And that's when she made her first mistake. She hesitated. Silence wrapped around the room like a noose, tightening with each second that passed. Jessica's hesitation might have lasted only a heartbeat, but to me, it was an eternity. Her eyes darted toward mine, searching, calculating, trying to find a way out of the pit she had just stumbled into. The rest of the group shifted uncomfortably, some exchanging glances, others taking nervous sips of their drinks. Someone coughed. The air, once filled with easy laughter and camaraderie, now felt heavy, like we had all unknowingly stepped into something we weren't meant to witness. Jessica laughed. A forced, brittle sound. Wow, she said, her voice deliberately light. but her fingers tightened around the base of her wine glass. Way to put me on the spot. I leaned back in my chair, feigning casual amusement. It's just a game, I said, shrugging. You can always pick dare. She exhaled sharply, and for the briefest moment, I saw something flicker in her expression. Panic? Anger? Guilt? She couldn't say yes, obviously. That would be suicide. But she couldn't just blurt out no either, because what if I had something up my sleeve? She was stuck, caught between the truth and whatever she thought I knew. Then she did what liars always do when cornered. She deflected. That's a pretty loaded question, she said, forcing a small laugh. I mean, define cheating? There it was. Ryan, her brother, let out an incredulous huff. Someone else muttered, oh boy. Jessica must have realized how bad that sounded because she quickly backtracked. I mean, not that I have. Obviously. But some people think flirting is cheating, while others think it only counts if it. She was rambling. Jessica never rambled. I took a slow sip of my drink, watching her squirm. I wasn't going to save her. Not yet. Seems like a simple yes or no question, Ryan finally said, his voice flat. He was always the skeptic in the family, the one who could smell deception a mile away. I think part of him had suspected something was off about his sister for months, but maybe he didn't want to believe it. Maybe he needed proof. I had just given it to him. Jessica shot him a glare, but her carefully composed mask was cracking. Obviously no, she finally said, plastering on a smile. I love Ethan. I would never do that. I held her gaze for a beat longer than necessary. Just long enough for her to know that I wasn't convinced. Just long enough for everyone in the room to feel the tension thrumming beneath the surface. I could have ended it there. I could have let her sit in the awkwardness and carry on with the game. But where was the fun in that? So I smiled and nodded. Good to know. And then I dealt the next card from the deck. Okay, new round, I said, clapping my hands together. Let's do something fun. How about we play most likely to? Jessica perked up immediately, relieved at the subject change. She probably thought I had let it go. That was mistake number 2. The game was simple. We'd take turns drawing random, most likely to statements, and the group would vote on who best fit the description. Harmless, right? Wrong. Because I had rigged the deck. Each slip of paper had a question designed to test Jessica's limits. Most likely to have a secret second phone? Most likely to sneak out in the middle of the night? Most likely to get caught in a scandal? Each time, Jessica got more and more uncomfortable. The others laughed awkwardly, brushing off the strange pattern. But Jessica noticed. She knew. And then, the best card of all. Most likely to cheat and lie about it. I could hear my own heartbeat as I pulled that slip from the stack and read it aloud. The room stilled. I didn't even have to say anything. One by one, everyone turned to look at her. Jessica swallowed. Okay, she said, forcing a laugh. This is getting weird. Her brother raised an eyebrow. Yeah, weird. Another long silence. Then she did something I didn't expect. She stood up abruptly, her chair scraping loudly against the floor. I need some air, she muttered and practically ran out onto the balcony. The moment the door clicked shut, everyone started whispering. Ryan was the first to break the silence. Okay, what the hell was that? I shrugged. Guess she doesn't like the game. One of our friends, Amanda, bit her lip. Ethan, do you know something? I swirled the ice in my glass. I know enough. Ryan's eyes narrowed. You planned this, didn't you? I didn't answer. I didn't have to. Because the night wasn't over yet. And Jessica had no idea what was waiting for her when she walked back inside. Jessica stood outside on the balcony, gripping the railing like it was the only thing keeping her from collapsing. The tension in her shoulders, the way her chest rose and fell in quick, shallow breaths. I knew that look. She was panicking. She had spent years weaving a carefully constructed image of herself, charming, loyal, devoted. But in the span of one night, I had turned that image into cracked glass, and now she was desperately trying to hold the pieces together before they shattered completely. I took my time before stepping outside. Let her stew in her own thoughts, let her replay every little moment in her head, wondering how much I knew. Finally, I joined her, leaning casually against the railing. The cool night air buzzed with tension. You okay? I asked, my voice carefully neutral. She nodded too quickly. Yeah, just needed some air. Lies. But that was her specialty, wasn't it? I let a few moments pass before speaking again. You know, I said, watching the city lights in the distance, I planned something special for tonight. She turned to me sharply, eyes narrowing. What do you mean? I smiled. It was time. I pulled my phone from my pocket and pressed a single button on the screen. Inside, the TV flickered on. The laughter from our friends died instantly as the screen lit up with a slideshow, one that I had carefully curated for maximum impact. Jessica's head snapped toward the glass doors, her reflection paling as she saw what was now playing in the living room. Photo after photo. Screenshot after screenshot. Hotel receipts. Late-night messages. A picture of her car parked outside an apartment that wasn't ours. Even a grainy but undeniable image of her and Eric together in a bar, sitting just a little too close, her hand resting just a little too comfortably on his leg. Gasps filled the room. Someone whispered, "Oh my God." Jessica bolted for the door, but I was faster. I stepped in front of her, blocking her way just as the next slide came up. A recording. One of her voice messages. The one where she told Eric, "I don't even feel guilty anymore. He has no idea. He's such an idiot." Silence. Not just in the room, in the world. Jessica's breathing turned erratic. Her hands clenched into fists at her sides. "You how?" "Planned ahead," I said smoothly. Her brother Ryan looked furious. Our friends were stunned, eyes darting between her and the screen like they couldn't believe what they were seeing. I crossed my arms. "I wanted to do this privately, Jess. I really did. But you always did love being the center of attention." The final slide came up. Her phone's GPS logs. Marked, timestamped, undeniable. The last entry? The night before, at his place. Someone dropped their drink. The splash barely registered over the weight of the moment. Jessica was shaking now. "Ethan, please." I tilted my head. "No, Jess. You please. Please explain how this isn't what it looks like. Please tell me how these photos are wrong. Please tell everyone here why you've been sneaking around for months." Her lips parted, but no words came out. Because there was nothing left to say. The fallout was immediate. Ryan stormed out, disgusted. Half of our friends left, shaking their heads. The other half stayed, watching like they were witnessing a live soap opera they couldn't look away from. And Jessica? She just stood there, frozen, caught in the wreckage of her own making. I barely made it 3 steps out the door before I heard Jessica scrambling after me. Her heels clacked against the floor, her breathing uneven as she rushed forward. "Ethan, wait," she called, her voice cracking. I didn't stop. Didn't even turn around. Not yet. She grabbed my arm, big mistake. I ripped it away, turning on my heel so fast she stumbled back a step. The look on her face? Priceless. It was a mix of panic, desperation, and something else, fear. Fear of losing control. Fear of facing the consequences. Fear of the fact that, for once, she wasn't the one holding all the cards. "Wait for what, Jessica?" I said, voice calm, but sharp as glass. "Wait for you to come up with some excuse? Wait for you to cry and make yourself the victim? Wait for you to convince everyone that I'm overreacting?" Her lips trembled, but she swallowed hard, trying to regain composure. "This isn't fair. You ambushed me in front of everyone." I laughed. Actually laughed. A deep, hollow sound. "Oh, I'm sorry. Is cheating on your husband for months fair? Was lying, sneaking around, humiliating me fair? Was sitting in our house, kissing me goodnight, while you were out doing whatever with Eric, was that fair?" She flinched. "It wasn't like that." I raised an eyebrow. "Really? Then please, enlighten me, Jess. How was it?" She opened her mouth, then closed it. Because she had nothing. Nothing. Behind her, the house was still in chaos. Ryan was yelling inside, demanding answers. Our friends were whispering, some taking one last drink before deciding they wanted no part of this mess. But I wasn't done. I stepped closer, lowering my voice. "You were caught. Red-handed. On camera. With proof. And all you have to say is this isn't fair." Tears welled in her eyes. And I knew. This was her next play. The waterworks. The "if I cry, maybe he'll feel bad" move. I had seen it before, just never aimed at me. She reached for my hand. "Ethan, I love you. I made a mistake, but I pulled back so fast she nearly lost her balance. "No, you don't get to do that. You don't get to throw love at me like it cancels everything out." Her face twisted. The guilt cracked, and underneath, the real Jessica started to show, angry, frustrated, entitled. "You think you're perfect," she snapped, voice rising. "You think you're some kind of saint? You've been acting like a detective, setting me up. You planned this." Oh, there it was. The rage. I tilted my head. "You're right. I did. You know why? Because if I had asked you straight up, you would have lied. Again. Just like you have been for months." She huffed, folding her arms, her face red with fury. You humiliated me in front of everyone. I smiled. Yeah, I did. Feels terrible, doesn't it? She opened her mouth to scream something else. Maybe more excuses, maybe more anger. But before she could, the front door flew open. Ryan. And he was furious. Jessica, what the heck is wrong with you? He barked, storming outside. I just spent the last 10 minutes hearing how you've been sneaking around behind Ethan's back while he's been nothing but good to you. Jessica whipped around. Ryan, stay out of this. Ryan laughed, a dry, humorless sound. Stay out of it? Oh, no, sis. You made me part of this the second you dragged me here and made me sit through your little circus act, pretending everything was fine. You used to be better than this. Jessica turned a deeper shade of red. You don't understand. Ryan shook his head. No, I understand perfectly. You got caught, and now you're trying to make it everyone else's fault. Classic Jessica move. She was seething now. She turned back to me, desperation creeping into her voice again. Ethan, we can talk about this. In private. Please. I stared at her for a long moment. Then I spoke, my voice low but firm. There is no we anymore, Jessica. Silence. Pure, crushing silence. And then, the final blow. I pulled something from my jacket. The divorce papers. Her eyes widened. She took a step back like I had slapped her. I knew weeks ago, I said, handing them over. I got everything ready. I wanted to give you the chance to come clean, but you didn't. So here we are. She stared at them, mouth open, chest rising and falling in rapid breaths. This isn't happening, she whispered. You wouldn't. I gave her a long look. Oh, I would. And I did. Ryan smirked. Yikes. The finality of it hit her like a train. I saw it in her face, the exact moment she realized that everything was gone. The house, the marriage, her reputation, all of it. She started shaking her head. Ethan, don't do this. I exhaled slowly. Then I walked away. Not another word. No final monologue. No need for one. Because she was already ruined. And I had nothing left to say. The night I walked away from Jessica was the night she realized she had lost control for the first time in her life. The master manipulator, the queen of deception, the woman who could talk herself out of anything, was suddenly powerless. The papers in her hands weren't just a legal document. They were the physical embodiment of everything she had thrown away, everything she had gambled with, and everything she was now losing in real time. I didn't look back. I didn't need to. The sound of the silence behind me, the weight of the eyes on her, the unmistakable crack in her voice, it was enough. The moment was already cemented in my mind as a victory. Not because I had won in some cliché battle of betrayal, but because for once, the truth had done all the work for me. Ryan didn't follow me, but I knew he wasn't going to let her off easy. He was furious, embarrassed, ashamed of her. I could only imagine what kind of conversation they were about to have, but I no longer cared. Jessica wasn't my problem anymore. What followed in the weeks after was the real art of the revenge. People say the best revenge is moving on, living well, being happy. That's nice and all, but let's be honest, sometimes the best revenge is letting them drown in the mess they created, while you calmly walk away and shut the door behind you. Jessica's life imploded faster than I expected. Her job was the first thing to go. Not because I exposed her, but because karma works in ways that are far more poetic than any plan I could have crafted. Turns out Eric wasn't just her special friend from work. He was also in a long-term relationship with someone in their company's HR department. The same HR department that had zero tolerance for workplace affairs, especially ones that took place during company hours, in company-funded hotels, using company resources. I didn't even need to be the one to pull that trigger. She did it to herself. Her apartment came next. She had been so eager to move out after the divorce was finalized, thinking she could start fresh, that she underestimated just how expensive life was when you weren't splitting the cost with someone else. She had counted on Eric helping her out, but that didn't exactly pan out, because he was too busy dealing with the aftermath of his own downfall. His girlfriend, well, ex-girlfriend, had not only left him but had also taken everything. Jessica and Eric, once so smug and secure in their little bubble, were now both drowning, separately and alone. Friends? She lost most of them that night. Some drifted away quietly, not wanting to be associated with the mess. Others, particularly the ones who had stood by me, cut her off completely, disgusted by how easily she had lied to all of us. The only ones who stuck around were the ones just as toxic as she was, and those types don't stay loyal for long when there's nothing left to gain. Her reputation was demolished. It wasn't just because of what happened at the game night. It was because people finally saw her for who she really was. The carefully crafted image she had spent years maintaining was shattered, and she couldn't recover from it. She tried, of course. She told sob stories, played the victim, spun new narratives to make herself look like the wounded party. But when you get caught on camera, in front of an entire group of people, with irrefutable proof of your deception, there's nowhere left to run. And me? I didn't just move on, I thrived. I kept the house, the car, the peace of mind. I reconnected with friends, traveled more, picked up old hobbies I had let slip. It was incredible how much space she had taken up in my life without me even realizing it. And now, with her gone, everything felt lighter. The real cherry on top? She tried reaching out. Multiple times. Emails, texts from unknown numbers, even a handwritten letter, because, I assume, she thought it would seem more sincere. All variations of the same message. I miss you. I made a mistake. Please, can we just talk? I never responded, because there was nothing left to say. Jessica was a sinking ship, and I was already far away, standing safely on the shore, watching it disappear into the water. Bye-bye.